All right, Module 58. We just finished up the buyer presentation and packet for the third time. And now we're going into Module 58, compensation structure. Dave Hooke team's compensation structure has found the reality that we're an above average real estate company provide a higher level of service than the average agent. It's incredibly important that you review the buyer presentation with the client prior to reviewing our compensation structure. Otherwise, you may experience questions about our fee structure later in the process. If this happens, you haven't done your job on the front end in explaining what we do, how it benefits customers, and why our fee structure is what it is. Do some additional role playing on 3.5% commission for properties under 130, 445 brokerage fee, 3% or 3.5 for sale by owners, and how to ensure we get a buyer's agency on every showing. Reference K Hawk's dialogue. You guys listen to that, right? We listened to it together a little bit.
In here, yeah.
Remember, did you watch it outside of here at all? Okay, good. All right, so let's say, Andrew, you're the client and I'm the agent. The reason we lean into as the price of the property goes down below 130, the reason the buyer packet and presentation has pre-printed it says 3.5 is because if we were to do everything we do with the transaction coordinator, all the marketing, the materials that we produce, the resell it for free, all the communication, the FirePoint system to make sure that you can be organized enough with 100 people and communicate with them like we do. We only got, all our transactions were $75,000. Let's say that those two things were true. We did everything that the way that we do it, at the level we do it, with the staffing and the communication and the systems that we do it, and all of our transactions were $75,000, and you collect 3% on every single one. We literally would have trouble being in business. Like, first of all, you guys would be burnt out, and we probably wouldn't be able to afford some of the systems that we have. So it's just an economic model, right? It's not that we can't afford to do a $75,000 transaction at 3% or 2.5% without the 445. Certainly we can do that. And if there's a circumstance where somebody is like in a bad position, and it's a single mom with some hardship, and it's like a charitable moment to be able to get somebody a house who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford it. Those are great reasons to go lower on commission, right? But if it's an angry guy who's entitled, who is likes to take advantage of people, that is not a good reason to cut your commission, because you have to know that you are the thing that, and you just have to own this, the thing that you're doing in this business is way above average. Like what you're being taught to do, the way that you're taking care of people, the way that you're being honest with people is, and it won't feel like that in your first year because you'll feel inadequate. But even with inadequacy and maybe even with a lack of knowledge, still the job that you're doing is above average. And it might not be to the level of service that a super, mature veteran agent would be, just because their knowledge is stronger. So it might not be that level of service. But with all the systems that you're running and the amount of communication that you're doing and all that kind of stuff, and you're totally in the buy side and you're not, split on trying to learn other things, truly, even with a lack of knowledge, in that you have access to other people with the knowledge, your level of service is well above average. And so my grandfather used to say to my dad to me, you need to have your fee, and you need to know that you're probably not the cheapest in the business, right? There's less expensive options out there for people. But you definitely are as competent as anybody out there, and you do it at the highest level. And the fees that you're charging are fair. And if anything, the fees that you're charging are average. I mean, there's a lot of agents out there that are charging 3% and a transaction fee. and you're doing it at a whole nother level, right? So just know that your fee structure is super fair, and if you were to, you don't cut your commission, you just don't, and you guys need to believe in yourselves, and if there are circumstances where you want to help somebody who's just in a really bad spot, that's a great reason to cut your commission, but not because you want to get a deal done. Like, people come to me a lot, and we're not inflexible on that, but people will come and be like, well, the other agent, and this always happens, they're like, the other agent, to make this work, there's a reply to inspection, the water heater needs replaced, and the other agents, like, why don't we just take it out of our commission? We'll split the cost of the water heater with you. And choosing to do that, it literally devalues you. And like in any other industry, like if you buy anything, like nobody's like, well, I'm going to charge you half just because you think that you should pay half. Like, this is the fee at the doctor's office. This is the fee at the dentist's office. You don't negotiate with your dentist. You're not like, well, here's the equivalent. Well, I found a cavity in your mouth. Oh, you found a cavity in my mouth. You should pay for at least $200 of that. I found a water heater problem in your house. Why would I pay? Like, the inspector, I didn't even find it. The inspector found a water heater that needs replaced in your house. And the seller's like, oh, you should definitely take $200 out of your commission for that. Like, it's a tooth in your mouth. Like, it's a water heater in your house. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. So when the agent, now, if you make a mistake, that's a good reason to cut your commission, because you're going to make it right, right? So I failed you, Mr. Client. You know what? And I believe that we want to do a good job for our customers, and I made a mistake. And if I can do anything to make this right, let me talk to the office. I want to take this out of my commission to make it right. That's an honorable thing to do. What's not honorable, and what cheapens you and cheapens people's confidence in you and lessens customer satisfaction, and this is a bit counterintuitive, but it does, is when you're working with a buyer and there's a water heater problem, and it's not a buyer that is in a bad spot and you want to help out for a charitable reason. It's a buyer who is a competent person, has financial resources, and says to you, well, I'm not buying the house because of this, and if they don't want to sell it to me, that's fine. And you say, and then they say, unless you're willing to take it out of your commission, and you say, all right, I'll take it out of my commission. And immediately what that says to the buyer is, you value money, getting this deal done, and that's why you're in this. It's a transactional approach to real estate. And what you need to do is have enough integrity to say, hey, I'd love for you to buy this house if it's the right house for you. But if you're going to let it slide because of this $400 water heater, I'm not sure it's the right house for you. I mean, you might not really like this house for you and your family if this is going to kill the deal for you. So I think first we need to talk about whether this is the right house for you and your family. And if it is, then we need to attempt to negotiate with the other side to try and get them to take care of the water heater. And if they won't, and you're willing to walk away because of the water heater, again, I'm not sure this is the right house for you. So let's first talk about that, right? Because that's the core issue. If you're telling me you're going to walk away unless I give up $200 on my commission, I don't know that you really want this house, right? So, and I promise you, when you feel like there's an expectation for you to give, for a reason that has nothing to do, you've provided exceptional service, you've done everything fine, you've not made a mistake, and then you're expected to cut your fee. It makes no sense at all, right? The minute you do that, it lowers customer satisfaction and their confidence in you. So you just need to be able to have the confidence and belief in yourself to say, hey, if I ever do anything wrong, I'll own that. But my fee is for consulting, and Hopefully you find value in that. If you don't ever find value in that, you think anybody can do a better job than me, then you should definitely work with someone else. And that's how you talk about your fee, is you stop being attached to the outcome and you put the onus on them to walk away. And they won't. The minute you do that, they won't walk away. They never do. Right? But if you don't have confidence in yourself and your fee, they remain in control of the transaction. And you'll come across people like this, and the only way to deal with them is just to walk away and not be attached to the outcome and say, hey, if you don't find value in the service, you shouldn't be working with me. Or if you don't like this house as much as you thought you did and you're willing to walk away for this kind of money, then you probably shouldn't buy this house.
Do you think it would be a good idea? So, like, an example you said about $400 for the water heater. Say the cost to purchase the home is like $200,000. Do you think it'd be a good idea to take like that $400 into that $200,000 and be like, look, this amounts to 0.002, like
all sorts of strategies
like,
around that.
You know, just show them like
you're
investing $400, which amounts to like nothing really at the end of the day.
There's all sorts of ways to articulate the core issue, but you got to start with the core issue. So if you find yourself convincing someone, like, let me just show you. Let me convince you why you need to buy this house. Be careful. But here's what you can do. You can say, you can use that tool without trying to convince them to buy it, to selling them the house. And the way to do that is to remove they're putting the onus on you. What you need to do is take it and give it back to them. And so they're like, well, you know, unless you're willing to give. And if you went immediately into, well, let me just show you why this makes sense for you to move forward. It's only 0.001 of your investment. Now you're in a debate with them. And the core issue isn't the money. The core issue is handing them back the onus and the responsibility of the adult decision they're about to make. And the way to do that is to say, I understand you want me to, you know, it makes sense and it might be helpful for me to cut my commission. But I'm a little concerned at this point that maybe this isn't the best house for you, because, you know, I think we have some soul searching to do, because if you're willing to, you know, not buy this house because of $400, then I don't know that you and your family want to be in this house for the long term, and we might want to look at other houses. Now, you already have inspections invested in this, deposit money, and appraisal. That all adds up to a couple $1,000s. So I also don't want you to walk away if this is the right house. And this does meet a lot of your criteria. You guys seem to fall in love with it at the beginning. Now, we have a water heater problem. That's not because of me or my service. If I did something wrong or you're not seeing value in my service, that's another issue we need to talk about. And that's a fee issue. And maybe you need to be working with another realtor. If you ever think anybody can do a better job than me, we need to talk about that too. And that's okay. But before we talk about this, let's talk about whether this is the right house for you. And for all these following reasons, originally you said that it was the right house for you. Is there anything different now, or things I'm not understanding about why this house might not meet your needs? No. All right. I mean, and here's the reality of this decision, is that when you take $400 and you divide it by the price of the house using your tool, this is a 0.0001 percentage of the decision. And truthfully, if you make the decision, it's not really going to change my life. If you don't make this decision, it's not really going to change my life. It's not going to affect me that much, just a little bit. But if you do make this decision, it's going to dramatically change you and your family and your children's lives. It's going to affect what friends they meet, what school they go to, what bedroom they choose, where they stub their toe. All the memories that you have in the next 10 years is going to change because of this house. And if you don't make it, you're going to be in a completely different world with completely different circumstances and a completely different future. And so I want to make sure this is the right property for you. And ultimately, you put the onus back on them. And you can use those tools. You can get the calculator out. But you need to make sure they know you're willing to walk away before you use those tools. Does that make sense? That's the key, is that you've remained unattached to the outcome before you use all sorts of tools. I mean, another tool, you know, in the counteroffer is they come back, you offer, you know, $198, the listing agent comes back and says, we'll do it for $200, and the buyer says, $198 was our cap, we're not doing it, right? I totally understand, and if you don't want to do it, I don't think you should. Again, it's not going to change my life. If you do it or don't do it, we're going to go back and find another house. But it is going to change your life. And here's the thing. So what I did right there, it's not going to change my life, but it's going to change your life. So I've extracted myself from the outcome, shown that I'm fine with walking away. Now I'm going to put the onus firmly on them. Here's the thing that you should know, though, before you walk away. I'm fine with it. Doesn't bother me a bit. We'll look for more houses and find you a different one. But if you walk away from this property, I feel like I'm remiss if I'm not consulting with you on this. Interest rates are going up right now. Your interest rate lock is at 4.5%. And if you're financially driven and you don't want to pay more than $198, I assume you're financially driven, and the monthly payment associated with this $198 at 4.5% is, get your calculator out, right? $705 a month. The only concern I have, and I'm willing to support your decision, but you should make that decision, not me, is that if interest rates were to go up in the next month and you find a house a month from now, and now you're at 4.75%, and you get the same 198 house a month from now, your payment's going to be $725 a month, not $705 a month. Whereas right now, at $200,000 at the current interest rate, at $4.50 per thousand, your payment will go up from $705 to $714. 9 plus 5 is 14. Thanks, math major. So right now at 200, your payment will go up $9 a month to $714. Whereas in a month, if interest rates go up just a quarter of a point, and you go at 198, your payment will be $725. And so I'm okay with walking away on the principle that your cap is 198, but I need you to understand that the consequences of that decision might be that you end up paying more than both of these numbers for the same 198 house in a month. Or you need to readjust your maximum to 192, and you'll just get less house for your money. So the decision's yours. You can walk away and be okay with those consequences, and that's your decision, not mine, and I'm good with that. Or you can go ahead and pay the $200,000 because you know that it's probably going to be a less monthly payment than if interest rates go to 4.75 in the next month. And just turn on the news, the Federal Reserve's been meeting, and interest rates are increasing. Decision's yours, right? And so that may or may not be a good example depending on the economy. But you can use tools not to sell them on anything, but just to give them the consequences of their decision so they can make the decision that's best for them and their family, not you making the decision or trying to sell them into a decision.
That idea, though, like that you talked about, helps to put things in like real perspective to them.
Right.
Comparison, so.
And you're always coming at it. The first thing you're doing is you're detaching yourself from the outcome and removing the onus of the decision from, like, that you are incentivized by what you're about to say. So you're not selling them. You're not trying to convince them. You don't care either way. You'll support your decision 100%. But by the way, let me sit beside you and give you as a consultant, this is what you hired me for, give you the pros and cons of decision number 1 and the pros and cons of decision number 2. Now, which one would you like to do, decision number 1 or decision number 2? Okay. And that's how you're talking about what this section is your fees. So when people say, so this was the role play, when people say, well, I heard, your fee is 3.5%. Well, say it to me. We got to the thing, say your fee is 3.5%. I heard there's another broker that, most people, you just charge, there's some brokers that just charge 3. Say that.
So, Dave, I see here that your commission fee is about 3.5%, and I'm aware that there are some other brokers out there that offer around 3.
Yeah, that's true, Andrew. And like I said, I always just advise that you do interview a couple different realtors, and just like when you're buying a car, you can buy a Mercedes or you can buy a different car. You can buy a Honda. And there's nothing wrong with. I drive a pickup truck, right? And that's a good utility vehicle for me. So there's nothing wrong with any type of car. It's just what you find value in, what you and your wife find value in. So I always advise people to talk to a couple different agents. Our fee structure is what it is. We're not the most expensive. We're probably not the least expensive either. Um, there's some discount brokers out there. I can put you in touch with a couple if you are fee sensitive and you'd find more value in that type of a fee structure. What I can tell you is they're going to offer a different type of service, but you might be okay with that, and you should ultimately make that decision. Our service package includes some things that you're just probably not going to find too many other places. Number one, the amount of time we've been in the business. Two, again, just to review, just that I only focus on buyers, so all my attention is on you. I'm doing 3 to 4 times the amount of buyer transactions than the average agent is. So, the question is for some people is would they rather use a doctor that does 1,000 surgeries in a year or a doctor that does 100 surgeries in a year? Which one do they have more confidence in? So I'm the practitioner, not because I'm better at anything, but because I'm on a team that only allows me to take care of buyers. So I tend to have more experience in a given year with just people that are doing what you're doing. And then, of course, the team that I'm on just has some service offerings that are built into our package, such as if you're not thrilled with your house, we'll resell it for you for free. And we're always going to negotiate that home warranty, which is a value of $500. And some of the negotiation strategies that we use, I think we can get you a better deal for the house, and just the amount of time that we're doing in doing market analysis and valuing the home that you're going to buy. So there's all different levels of service. And if you're the type of person that says, hey, this is like my biggest decision I'm ever going to make, and it's not, I'm not like going to, I'm not buying a vacuum cleaner, I'm buying the biggest thing I'm ever going to buy. I want to make sure I'm paying somebody a fair fee for a high level of service, then we're probably of good value to you. But if you're on the other hand, like I've done this a lot before, I know what I'm doing, I really don't need anybody looking out for me, I just need somebody who's a paper pusher, there's definitely options for that too. And you can get a little discount on your fee structure. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm not selling him. I'm not pumping myself up. I'm not talking him into it. I'm walking away from the outcome, letting him know that there's other options out there. And when you do that, I promise you, people will respect you, and they won't feel sold by you, and they won't feel pressure, salesman-y pressure. They'll just be like, oh, this is a pretty matter-of-fact guy. And 9 times out of 10, when you take, you'll lose 1 or 2 because of that. I've lost them, and they didn't see value in your service. And I promise you, you don't want to work with those people, because if they don't value and respect your service, it's going to feel like a complete stressful situation working with them, because they're always going to be questioning you. I'm paying you the most money. Why aren't you going the extra mile for me? They're always going to, and you don't want to work with people who don't value you. So weed them out with that conversation and work with people that do see value. And the people that do will come away from that and respect your posture, and totally you'll keep your integrity. And 9 times out of 10, the people will work with you when you frame it that way. Same with the brokerage fee. So, Ashley, question the brokerage fee, $445.
Dave, I see here that $445 is the brokerage fee. I'm not used to seeing such a thing. Is that typical?
Yeah. So some brokers do have like a $200 fee. There's some that have a $695 fee. Some don't have any broker fees. Some discount brokers, you can get a lower fee. Our fee landed at $445. When Dave first started the brokerage, he was just an independent agent, did what everybody else did to service buyers and sellers. He charged 3%, and there was actually no broker fee. And then as the years progressed, he added some staffing, and he segmented his team so that us buyer's agent could only focus on buyers, which ends up benefiting our buyer clients a little bit because we just do more transactions than the average agent, which is kind of cool. And he started building in some things like home warranties and if you don't love your house, we'll resell it for free, and some things that really help give the entire transaction a little bit more of a sense of peace for the buyers. And as he added these types of services and transaction coordination and a communication guarantee and bought some systems to make sure our clients felt like they were checked in with super regularly, his overhead went up, and his accountant came to him in 2013 and actually had a little bit of a heart-to-heart and said, hey, Dave, when you first started, you charged 3% for a pretty basic level of service, and over the years, you've added all of these service things, and your business has grown, and that's been great. but your per transaction cost has gone up significantly. So you're offering a higher level of service and a higher level of overhead, but your fee structure is the exact same. And he encouraged Dave to actually change his fee structure to charge 3.5% to 4%, just like you would with anything if you're doing a lot better service. Dave didn't want to do that, so what he did instead was he decided to take approximate costs of the additional things he was doing to provide a higher level of service and divide that by the number of transactions the team does in a year. And that comes to about $400 to $500 per transaction. So he just charges a roughly $450 per transaction. That covers a lot of the extra stuff we do. So we're able to pass on a free moving truck to you, all the bonuses that we talked about. You get a transaction coordinator, you get the communication guarantee, all that good stuff, and for an extra few $100. And then we don't have to raise our fees to 3.5% to 4%. We can still charge the normal 3%. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, great. And if people push back more, you can go into things like, and if you're not thrilled with that, like if somebody's pushing back even more, you can always say, and I'll tell you what, if after this transaction towards the end, you're not completely satisfied and you don't see total value in the 445 in our fee structure and you don't think we just knocked it out of the park, I'll cut that in half for you. You just tell me and I'll split it with you. How's that sound? Okay, so you can even throw that out there. And chances are, as long as you're doing, and I believe this, as long as if we're doing our job, the majority of people walk away saying, gosh, I'm really glad I used them. They knocked it out of the park. And if at any point they're like, I really didn't think I got good service, that's when we are going to step up and be like, what did we do wrong? Like, do I owe you money? Right? Do I need to cut my 445 because you felt you got taken advantage of in some way? Right? And they might not be right. If they're not right, we're not going to give. Mm-hmm. But if they're right and we did something wrong, then that's the only time we're going to try and make it right. And that's a time where you could say, I need to own this, right? I dropped the ball. And if that means I don't get paid at all, I'm fine with that. And that's good client service, mm-hmm. right? But there's lots of things you can throw in there, such as if you're not happy, I'll tell you what, if you question the fee now, I'll put you in control. If you don't see value in it by the end of the transaction, you let me know and I'll waive it, or I'll cut it in half.
That's something that we've done, obviously discussed with you.
You would discuss with me. You would shoot me a message and say, I talked to somebody, they were really questioning the fee. Is it okay if I tell them this? Mm-hmm. You okay with that? Another thing is, the other thing actually, and I just explained all the reasons that we have the fee. And like I said, some charge a little bit more, some charge a little bit less. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, you gotta see value in what we're doing, and if you think you'd be better off at like a discount broker or somebody that's offering a lower level of service, that's okay. No hard feelings from me or anything. The other thing to keep in mind though is that we're pretty good at negotiating. So people are like, "What's that fee for?" And then once they hear all that goes into it, they're like, "Wow, I'd want to pay the fee if I knew I could get a moving truck and all this stuff. That makes sense. Why isn't your fee a little bit higher?" Truth be told, the good news is too, we're really good at negotiating, and 9 times out of 10, I can get the seller to pay that fee. So my job is totally to represent you, totally knock it out of the park, and I can probably negotiate the seller to pay some of your closing costs and they'll eat your fee, and you get all this stuff for free at that point. And then at the end of the day, I'll still even come to that and say, and put you in control. If for any reason you don't think we knocked it out of the park in every way, shape, or form, I'll even waive it at the end of the day. So hopefully, does that all make sense? Is there any other concerns about the fee? Right? And so you can lay out 3 layers deep of like, here's why the fee exists, but you need to see value in it. I'll walk away. That's 2, and I can get the seller to pay 3. And if you don't see value in it, you're in control, and I'll waive it. And the control is totally in your hands. 4, like at some point, I can overcome every objection about the fee, about the stupid fee, to the point where it's just a no-brainer. Like, it's not a big fee. It's like a standard fee, and they're getting way more than anything they would get anywhere else. And I'll waive it and I'll get the seller to pay it. Like, you're not even paying the fee, right? So it just kind of becomes a. Now the truth is when you talk to Laney, nobody ever questions the fee. Like, it's a non-starter. This never comes up, but if it ever would, these are just detach yourself from the outcome. Tell her to interview other people. Make sure they see value. You'll get the seller to pay. Here's why we have it, and I'll waive it if you don't like me at the end of this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Last part on this is just wow, that was a long one. For sale by owners, and we'll cover that in a minute.